I feel like it is important for everyone to know that we are drinking wine today out of some stemless wine glasses I picked up at Target for $3.
Yes, and they're fabulous.
They say eat, drink, and be scary.
Yes.
Because I love Halloween.
Yes.
It's my favorite holiday.
Welcome to This Is Lit, a podcast where we drink and talk about our favorite books. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Casey.
And we're your hosts, so everybody raise a glass and let's get started.
Okay, Liz, what are you drinking today?
Okay, I am actually drinking Oviedo Classico from Rufino. It's actually bottled in Umbria, Italy, by a little Umbria, yes, by a little hill town called Orvieto, and that is actually where I lived for many, many months in college, and met Leo of the Leather Pants.
Leo of the Leather Pants.
Yes.
Sexy. Well, I am drinking Schlinkhaus Riesling, Deutscher Landwein Rhein, which I think means German semi-sweet white wine. It says that it is crisp and refreshing, so I will try it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. That's pretty good. Pretty sweet for a Riesling. Also, I feel like it is important for everyone to know that we are drinking wine today out of some stemless wine glasses I picked up at Target for $3.
Yes, and they're fabulous.
They say eat, drink, and be scary.
Yes.
Because I love Halloween.
Yes.
It's my favorite holiday, which brings us round to our book for today.
Yes.
We are talking about John Connolly's The Gates. It's the first book in a series, isn't it?
Yes, the Samuel Johnson series, or the Dragged to Hell series. The name has changed a couple of times.
Dragged to Hell.
Yeah, since its publication.
All right. So, The Gates is a, I was thinking about this on my drive home today. The Gates is a supernatural book.
Yes, it is.
Which, more often than not, sorry, these are our books from last time.
So many books.
I have a lot of books.
Worst problems in the world.
More often than not, I find that supernatural is not considered to be a genre unto itself.
No.
Like, you find supernatural elements in other genres. So, like, you might read a fairy tale that's supernatural, or you might read a sci-fi that's supernatural, or you might read a horror novel that's supernatural. Like, the genre is almost never just supernatural. Like, even the television show Supernatural has supernatural elements, but it's essentially a Western.
Yeah.
It's a Western with supernatural
I never thought
elements.
of it like that.
Yeah, it's a Western with supernatural elements.
I kind of thought of it as more of a dramedy.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but like, it's definitely like it's. The point is that supernatural happenings in books, like saying that a book is a supernatural book, that doesn't give you a lot to go off of genre-wise. And The Gates is not really a supernatural horror. It's not really a supernatural fairy tale. It's more of like a supernatural comedy.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I guess.
Kind of.
Comedy adventure.
It reminded me a lot of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially with the rather witty footnotes.
The footnotes reminded me of Good Omens.
Yes, the footnotes are hilarious.
But, yeah. So it's kind of, it is about a portal to hell being opened, which is, in general, considered to be a bad thing.
Usually.
But it's pretty humorous in tone.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed.
The thing I really like about this book that I had never seen before is that it takes a deep dive into the scientific possibilities of this, what is considered supernatural thing.
Yeah, because it's
happening.
Well, because the whole thing's triggered by a weird thing at the Hadron Collider.
Yes.
Which is a real-life machine that exists in the real world.
In Switzerland.
That I try not to think about because it kind of freaks me out.
That's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this whole thing starts with Samuel Johnson, who is an 11-year-old boy, who,
a very precocious 11-year-old.
Yes, very precocious 11-year-old boy, who is trick-or-treating 2 days early for Halloween.
He's trying to get,
3 days early.
He's trying to get a, head start on Halloween.
Yes, on Halloween.
The idea here being, if you trick-or-treat 3 days instead of 1, you get more candy.
Yeah, or you beat everybody to the best candy because you were there first.
Nobody wants an apple or a toothbrush. What is the worst thing you ever got for Halloween in a trick-or-treating bag?
You'll have to let me think about that one. So while you answer, I will think about it.
Well, I did get a toothbrush more than once. I've gotten Bible tracts, which is nice.
Oh.
My favorite memory is whenever I was between the ages of 5 and 7, I lived in a town called Utica, which is about, as of 1996, it had the population 274. So at the time I lived there, there were less than 300 people. It was considered a village. It had a church, a little red brick church, a post office, a gas station, and a bar. That's all it had. There was no police station. There was none of that. You had to go 20 miles to Chillicothe to rent a movie. You know, very tiny town. Everyone in it was a little fucked up. We all knew each other. And there was a guy in town. He lived in a pink clapboard house. I don't know what his real name is, but we all call him Flower. When I was a kid, I called him Uncle Flower. But yeah, Flower was not prepared for Halloween.
Oh, no.
And my brother and I showed up on his doorstep. I was dressed up as Pocahontas, I think. And my brother was dressed up as Superman. We showed up on his doorstep. He goes, "Oh shit, is it Halloween?" He puts a live kitten into my basket.
What?
And an unopened pack of cigarettes into my brother's. Because that's the first things he could find 2 steps into his house. Like, it was a trailer trash paradise, that town. It was an interesting...
Okay, and see, my neighborhood that I grew up in, we had one house that we were all like, we have to get this house, because this guy gave out cans of soda and full-size candy bars.
That never happened to me. Never happened to me.
And so...
I grew up in the ghetto, though.
I literally grew up in a gated community. There is a gate.
Wow.
And then people got angry, and they took the gate down. But the wall is still there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had a guy who gave out full candy bars and cans of soda.
And they were tied to his little old wife, bless her, would like take Halloween ribbon and tie the soda.
A Crunch bar and a Dr. Pepper together.
And then on good years, there would be like a little pencil in there too. And so we were all like, we need to go back to that house. And so we would like stop there first, wait till the end of the night when they were tired and didn't recognize anybody, and go back again. Yeah, I don't know. I think the worst thing that ever happened to me was like somebody told me I was too old to be trick or treating and told me to leave a bacon.
How old were you?
10. I was 10.
My last year trick-or-treating, I was 13.
Yeah.
And I was taking my younger brother. And we got stopped by an 18-year-old boy and his buddies who were drunk driving around the neighborhood, stealing candy from kids.
That's awful.
And he told my little brother, who was the smallest of us, because me, my brother, and a friend of mine who was the same age as me, and he told my brother to give him his bag of candy or he would break my brother's nose. And he probably would have gotten the bag of candy if he had just asked for the bag of candy, but the adding of the breaking of the nose was a little too much for me personally.
I was going to say, is this man 6 feet underground now?
I broke his nose.
Good job.
And his buddy, who was with him, who I later found out was like 20, maced me. Like, full in the face. It was great. They had to walk me home, like, they had to lead me home by the arms because I couldn't see.
Oh, that's awful.
It was a whole thing. And then eventually they got caught by the cops because someone called them in because they drunk drove their truck through somebody's backyard fence. And when the cops went to retrieve the truck and arrest the guys, they had like 20 or 30 bags of candy in the back. I will say that is my one good experience with the cop, though, because he fished out mine and my brother's pillow sacks and brought them back to us at our house, which was very sweet and not at all necessary. But yeah, so that was my last Halloween. But I would never tell a 10-year-old. I wouldn't really tell anyone that they're too old to trick or treat, because like, let kids be kids and have joy for as long as they can, you know? Like, this world can be so depressing. Like,
let kids be kids.
And like you said, Samuel Johnson here is 11.
Yeah, he's 11 years old.
So he's older than you were when you got told not to trick or treat anymore.
Yeah, and see, after I was told not to do that, I did it for 3 more years. And then when I hit my freshman year in high school, I started doing that trick or treat for tots. So I started like going trick or treating for like canned food to raise money and collect food for the homeless.
Right.
So, and I also had somebody tell me when I was 15 that I was too old to be trick or treating, and I'm like, well, I'm not, considering I'm trying to help my community. Do you have a can to put in my bag?
Yeah, my last year I was 13. It was my last year of middle school.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yes, Samuel Johnson is out trick-or-treating 3 days early with his little dog Boswell, who Boswell might be one of my favorite characters. His little dachshund.
Yeah.
And at the home of Mr. and Mrs. Abernathy at 666 Crowley Road.
Which is just a little too on the nose for me, honestly.
Yeah,
A little too on the nosy. Yeah, if you don't know, Aleister Crowley was a writer who was into the occult and was kind of known for being the witch of his day.
Mm-hmm.
We should read some Crowley sometime. It's really
We
interesting.
should. I've never read any of his stuff.
He's got some interesting shit to say.
Huh. But, yeah, and so Mr. Abernathy tells him to go away, and Samuel doesn't think that they will be doing anything for Halloween, except that the Abernathys and their friends, the Renfields, which is a remnant from the Dracula book by Bram Stoker,
Right.
are in the Abernathys' basements in black robes trying to have fun by
Summoning a demon.
Bored, rich white people will be the death of us all.
Now, whenever I'm trying to have fun of a weekend.
I don't summon demons.
No, me neither.
I just try to make it a practice to keep as many demons as possible.
I like to watch. I like to binge watch TV on like Hulu or Netflix. I like to walk my dog. I like to do adrenaline sports like zip lining or like parasailing, like shit like that. It has never once crossed my mind to summon a demon for funsies. Now, having said that, I have played with a Ouija board. I have, I have done the sit in a circle and tell scary stories. I've gone in the bathroom and closed the lights off and said Bloody Mary into the mirror.
I've done that.
So, I feel like while the Renfields and the Abernathys are painted as people that we do not like, I feel I'm not quite willing to judge them for what they did.
No, I don't judge them at all.
Also, it's not the first time that somebody has found a book that they shouldn't have found. And, I mean, Evil Dead, that's the whole premise of Evil Dead.
Like,
there's
Mummy.
And the Mummy,
first one, the good one.
What's the one I'm thinking of? Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, yeah.
Cabin in the Woods kind of subverts that trope where they have it's like, basically they're trying to trick these kids into being in a horror movie, but the basement is full of different items that if you mess with it, it'll trigger that horror story.
That movie messed me
like
up,
those people,
man.
like literally the people in like the control center had like a bet on a whiteboard, like which one are they going to go for? Is it going to be the Necronomicon? Is it going to be the cursed doll? Is it going to be that weird music box? So
the conch.
It's like
for some reason the conch and the mermaid stand out in my brain with that movie.
It was pretty distinct. But yeah, like the horror genre, the modern horror genre in general, basically is founded on the principle that humans are too curious for their own good, and when given something unusual, they're going to try and explore it and usually screw something up.
Because curiosity was the thing that led Eve to the apple, and
Pandora to the box.
Yes, exactly. It's all our fault.
So, while they are made to be pretty unpleasant even before they're possessed by demons, I don't completely blame the Abernathys and the Renfields for what happens next.
No, because they were just
fooling around.
pawns in a game of chess.
More or less.
And so, us curious humans, being curious, built this massive collider underground in Switzerland. And they did a collision, and a particle bit just whizzed off while two of the technicians
into
were
space.
playing.
Through the wall
While
out
two
of the mountain.
technicians were playing battleships.
First off, if your job is to watch the Large Hadron Collider and make sure nothing weird happens, you should probably pay attention. However, it's been there for quite a while and hasn't done anything unusual, so I can also understand the boredom. But second off, if you're bored and you choose board games as your method to alleviate that boredom, why Battleship? It's so boring.
I know.
It's so lame.
At least do Monopoly, and then you can ruin a friendship.
Clue, which is like the best game.
Clue is much better.
Or, you can even do like, there's so many fun new games.
You can't do Cards Against Humanity with two people.
Not really. You could have a rando.
Yeah.
But you could do, like, my point is there are a lot of better board games than Battleship. Battleship isn't even about, like, there's no skill, it's just luck.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons. It said, even in the book, that one of the gentlemen was lacking in imagination.
Yeah.
And you need to have an imagination to be a good liar.
Yes, that is true.
But because this bit whizzed off, it is the power of this particle that the Great Malevolence, which has many, many names, but is referred to as the Great Malevolence, aka
It's the devil.
Whatever.
Lucifer. Beelzebub. Baphomet.
Yeah.
I can keep going.
We're good. Unless you want to start listing the names of the devil in a funny voice.
I'll spare
Saint
you.
Nick, he uses this to open up a portal to hell, and then the Abernathy's are killed, eaten by demons, and replaced with demons, especially Mrs. Abernathy.
I was kind of unclear on this. The demons are possessing their bodies.
Yes, but they are dead.
But they're not possessing their bodies in the sense, like in like a TV show, like Supernatural,
it's
where
not
there's like a smoke column that fills up the body. Like this is like there's literally a physical demon wearing like a skin suit.
Yes, literally.
Yeah, because it kind of grossed me out.
Like the invasion of the Skinwalkers.
Or Buffalo Bill.
Ooh. I don't need to sleep tonight. But yeah, so that happens. But Mrs. Abernathy
is like the head honcho.
The head honcho. She is the Great Maleficent. I've had
Maleficent?
3 sips.
The Great Maleficent.
All hail Maleficent. I've had 3 sips, y'all.
She's on a roll here.
I am.
I'm on my second
Blech.
glass of wine,
She
everybody.
is. I've had 3 sips, which is bad because my tolerance should be great.
One would think.
But the Great Mrs. Abernathy is the Great Malevolence's lieutenant. Yes.
Lieutenant.
First
Lieutenant, I guess, sounds better. Sidekick. Lieutenant. She's basically the next most powerful demon in hell.
Yes.
And then she's got a bunch of little bumbling idiot demons.
Mm-hmm. And then and Samuel Johnson, 11-year-old boy,
Witnesses this
because he doesn't want to go home because it's been 2 months since his father left them.
Because of another woman.
Yes, because of another woman named
Elaine.
Some woman named Elaine was involved, and his mom cries all the time. And there is the evil babysitter Stephanie, who
is a teenager.
Yes, I do like this one little passage he has about little girls are not as scared of their babysitters as little boys are, because little girls babysitters are
women.
Typically teenage girls, and teenage girls were at one point little girls, and they are the same species.
They inherently understand each other.
Yes. And then one of the footnotes is like, if it is any consolation to any of the little boys out there, even grown boys don't understand girls.
Well, so he witnesses this, and the demon that is wearing Mrs. Abernathy sees him.
Yes.
Which leads us to a chain of events where Samuel is trying to convince adults that his neighbors are demons, trying to
mainly his babysitter Stephanie
and his mother, trying to convince them that his neighbors are trying to bring hell to Earth.
And no one believes it.
No one believes him because he's 11, and because it's
and
Halloween.
They think he's acting out because of his father leaving, and his father. There's a conversation later in the book where it's very obvious that his father doesn't listen to anything he says. But then we are introduced to Nerd, the Scourge of 5 Deities.
The Scourge of 5 Deities.
And I will say
Nerd, N-E-R-N-U-R-D, not N-E-R-D.
N-U-R-D.
Nerd.
And his assistant, Wormwood.
Right. They basically live in a sad little forgotten corner of hell, and no one likes them.
Called the Wasteland.
And they're bored.
Yes, very bored.
And Nerd starts randomly popping in and out of existence in that world into our world.
Because when the Great Malevolence opened a door to our world, he also inadvertently opened a window, and that window opened onto their Easter dividing.
So he continuously keeps appearing and disappearing from his wastelands.
And the first time he appears small, inside a broom closet, and is crushed by Samuel Johnson's mother's vacuum.
Yes. Second time he appears medium and is hit by a truck.
Yes, instantly.
And then the third time he appears in Samuel's bedroom.
Yes.
And this is the second demon to appear in Samuel's bedroom in as many days.
Yes, because the first one to appear in his bedroom was actually a monster under the bed sent by Mrs. Abernathy.
Now, I really enjoyed that scene.
I loved that.
Because...
what child has never thought that there was a monster under their bed?
Well, the thing I really liked about it is whenever you're reading fantasy or sci-fi, there is a lot of stuff that is not explicitly said in the text.
Yes.
So, but it is like a rule of...
Yes.
So, like, the rule...
the monster under the bed cannot get out from under the bed.
Like monsters can't get you if your feet aren't out from under the
Exactly,
covers.
yeah.
Like, if you put the covers over your head, they can't come to you. You know, or like in fantasy novels, it's like if you have to go on a quest, you're going to be given an allotted amount of time in which you have to complete the quest. Like, these are unspoken rules of sci-fi and fantasy. And so in this, it was kind of fun to see it subverted, where the monster under the bed explicitly told Samuel, I can't grab you unless you step off of the bed.
Well, what? Well, them's the rules.
I can't come out from under the bed, and I can't eat you unless you get down here. Which is especially funny because...
well, then I won't get off the bed.
At that point, Samuel is a smart enough kid to be like, well, if that's really all it takes for me not to get eaten, then you might as well leave, because I'm not going to...
get off this bed.
Willingly chose to be eaten. So it was just kind of a fun little subversion of, like, the usual, we all know these rules, like the demon explicitly tells him it.
And
but
the demon that was under his bed actually seems like a pretty decent fellow with an unpopular job.
I mean, he eats children.
Yeah. Except for that.
He's a real nice guy, except for all the child eating.
Except for all the child eating, which apparently he hasn't eaten a child yet, because as he told Samuel, this is his first time.
He didn't do a very good job.
Yes, and then
he wanted to be a toothpaste demon, man. That's all he wanted.
Yeah, he wanted to be the demon that, like, looked after that little bit of toothpaste that's in the back of the tube, even though you know there's no toothpaste left in the house. And
so my thought, okay, this is off track.
Go for it.
You know, I've got to do it. I got to get off track sometimes, right?
One of our patented tangents.
So, the little bit of the toothpaste that's in the back of the tube. First off, if you roll from the end, you don't have that problem as much.
Yes.
Second off, even if you do, you can cut the toothpaste tube open.
That was my thought. To get the last bit of toothpaste.
So then my thought when I read that was, if you cut open the toothpaste tube, and there's a tiny demon living inside your toothpaste tube, could you inadvertently kill a demon by cutting it open?
Only on this plane, and then it would go back to hell, kind of like Nerd did.
Yeah.
In the rules of this book.
Following the rules of this book.
But I do not think there is an actual demon at the end of the toothpaste tube. We're changing the name of this episode to Toothpaste Demon. I don't think there's an actual demon inside the toothpaste
looks after
tube.
it.
He just looks after that bit. It's kind of like, what did he say?
But isn't the most practical way to look after something to be right there with it?
I don't know.
Like, if I was a demon who was supposed to look after toothpaste in a tube, to me, the most logical thing to do would be live in the toothpaste tube.
But that's only one toothpaste tube. There
are
millions of toothpaste tubes in the world.
You're suggesting that this demon handles all toothpaste.
Yes, that's on the end of the tube.
Oh, no, that's a whole different story. Yeah. That's a whole different story.
It's
that's
not
a much
your
greater
personal toothpaste tube demon.
Well, people have personal fairies. Why can't they have personal demons?
Because Christian and Irish mythology? I don't know. That is an excellent question. If you ever meet the demon that lives inside your toothpaste tube, please ask them for me.
I'm going to summon the demon that lives inside my toothpaste tube.
Please don't do that, because somebody else will come.
See, this is how it ends up that people summon demons. Curiosity killed the motherfucking cat.
I like that they have a demon that's like, oh no, which is the demon of thin people who look in the mirror and think they're fatter than they really are. And then there's the demon of, oh really, which is people who don't look that good and look at the mirror and think they look amazing.
That's pretty funny.
I'm like, those are my demons. Depending on the day.
Could go either way.
So, let's see, we've gotten to the monster nerd event.
Samuel just met Nerd.
Yes, and so Samuel meets Nerd, and Nerd immediately
become
cowers.
Friends.
Yes, because Nerd immediately cowers from Boswell. But they become friends really quickly. And then...
What kind of dog is Boswell?
He's a little wiener dog.
I'm picturing him like the dog in Howl's Moving Castle. Have you ever seen Howl's Moving Castle?
Yes! Oh!
He's like a little mustachy dog, like some kind of terrier
he's not
thing.
a little mustache.
But that's how I picture him, because he's just like one on, he's like, and then he like...
He's a little pointy
Yeah.
wiener dog.
I just keep picturing him.
Just
like,
think of those images of the little dogs in the hot dog costume, but take the hot dog costume off.
Why? I like the hot dog costume.
Because Boswell is not consistently wearing a hot dog costume.
You don't know that. Does it explicitly
It's
say...
never explicitly stated he is wearing a hot dog costume.
I contend that Boswell is always wearing a hot dog costume.
I respect your headcanon.
Thank you. It's important to me.
So, Nerd and Samuel become friends,
Yes.
eating jelly beans together.
Which, side note, jelly beans are gross.
I don't like them.
I like the orange ones.
I like the red ones.
And no other jelly beans.
The black ones are terrible.
They're licorice. No one likes licorice.
It's so gross.
It's one of the other
If
unspoken...
no one likes licorice, why do they make licorice jelly beans? Why do they make bags and bags of licorice jelly beans that are only licorice jelly beans?
To fuck with us.
There must be a demon that looks after the licorice jelly beans.
Must be a demon who adds the licorice jelly beans.
Yes, I will do that. Yeah, licorice jelly beans. And so, but Nerd ends up getting popped back to hell, and Samuel gives him the bag of jelly beans
To take with him.
to cheer him up a bit.
Which is very
then
sweet.
Samuel has tried to look for some help from on high. He goes to the family's church on Sunday,
Which
is
the
vicar.
The vicar doesn't seem to like Samuel very much.
No, because
Kid's
Samuel
too damn smart for his own good.
Samuel is an intelligent child, and I will tell you, reading Samuel Johnson reminds me of me as a child, where people just did not want to talk to me because I could point out the logical flaw in their society and their plan. Well, that's just the way it's done. Why? Well, because it is. But why?
I think he is a precocious kid, but I think that's kind of the nature of children in general, is to question everything.
Yeah.
And so Samuel just questions things partially because he's precocious, but partially because he's a kid, and kids just want to know how things work. And whenever it comes to things like faith and religion, there's not always a satisfactory or a straightforward answer to how or why things work.
And you never tell somebody good Christian boys or good Christian girls don't ask those kinds of questions. That is not an answer you ever want to get from anybody.
Yeah. Well.
This has been a public service announcement. But he goes to the vicar
And asks him
about help.
Because he tried to Google it first.
Yes, which, bless him. Poor child.
You got to use all the Google shortcuts, man. You got quotation marks on this website.
He's 11. He doesn't know that yet.
My 3-year-old nephew knows how to work an iPhone better than I do.
Okay, he's an 11-year-old written by a 50-year-old man.
Fair enough.
Okay, so he asks the vicar about hell, and the little Saint Thomas of Biddlecombe church,
Yes.
has some information on it that comes back later, which is interesting. And that's,
Let's see the book.
you want to see the book?
Yes.
She made a grabby gesture, and I'm like, what? My hands are here.
Listen.
About Bishop Bernard the Bad, which comes back to be interesting later. But at this church, Mrs. Abernathy approaches Samuel and tells him, "You stop telling people what you heard," because she has already hypnotized his mother into telling her what she heard.
Yeah.
What Samuel heard. And she's like, "If you don't, I'm going to kill you, your little dog, and your mother." And I'm going to kill you last and make you watch, kind of a thing. You
Right.
know, it's the great villain-hero standoff.
Yeah, there's always one of those.
And Samuel tries his very best to be brave and says, what can be even worse than a monster under my bed? And then that night, the darkness comes to him.
Yes, the chapter is called In Which We Learn That It Is Sometimes Wise to Be Afraid of the Dark.
Yes, which I love the title chapters of this book.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of humor in them. And the darkness... Okay, you know there is a podcast I listened to called Astonishing Legends. And they did I think it was like a 1 or 2 part episode entitled The Sludge Entity. And it was, they interviewed this husband and wife where they moved into this house, and through their experience, their youngest son had this black demonic entity attached to him.
Right.
And so they called it a sludge entity because it moved kind of like liquid oil and stuff like that. And so reading the description of this darkness, I was reminded of those episodes.
Right.
But this true darkness is Boswell is a real hero and a very good dog. Boswell is a good boy.
Yes,
And
he
deserves
is.
all the treats.
He's a good boy.
Because Boswell is the one that protects Samuel while he's asleep, and Mrs. Johnson
Yes.
while she's asleep.
Yes, he bites the darkness.
Yes, he bites and holds onto it and growls with his ferocious little 15-pound dogginess.
What a good dog.
He is. And they stretch it, and they let it go, and Samuel flushes it down the toilet.
Yes.
And then Mrs. Abernathy is furious.
Yeah, she's not happy.
No.
She's like standing across the street watching it all go down.
Yeah, being uber creepy.
As you do. That's also the chapter when his dad tells his mom that she wants a divorce, right?
Yeah,
He wants a divorce.
That is the chapter that his dad tells Mrs. Johnson that he wants a divorce. He's bought a house with Elaine, and he's coming for the stupid car, which is an Aston Martin.
Mhm.
What year is it? It's a silver Aston Martin.
Is it 78?
Yeah, it's a gorgeous car.
It's the James Bond car.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous car. But, yeah, that is kind of a dick move, being like, oh, I'm leaving you for this other woman, but my apartment doesn't have a garage, so you hold on
Hold
to the
on
car.
to my prized possession.
You hold on to my prized possession of my car instead of my son, which should be my prized possession.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Samuel's father is not very
A nice
considerate.
man.
No, he is not. He is not a nice man.
So, yeah. So then after the darkness, after Mrs. Abernathy tries to
Defeat him. Samuel
eat him, defeat him, I don't really know what the darkness
Destroy him.
would have done.
silence him in some way, shape, or form. Samuel decides to get help
Yes.
from his friends, Maria and Tom. Which Tom sounds like he is a baby version of Thor. He is a golden retriever and he never has bad days. He's really good at cricket.
Yes. Yeah, I like Maria and Tom.
I do. I quite enjoy Maria. Especially since this is a series and I've read all 3, so I
Yeah.
know where this all goes.
Yeah.
Which maybe someday we'll read the Infernals. But he gets help from them, and they decide that the only way to decide whether or not Samuel is being truthful is to go to the Abernathy's house.
Mm-hmm.
And the Abernathy's house has gotten creepy.
It was already kind of creepy.
Yeah, but then they look in and there's like bloated corpses sitting in the living room with orange mold crawling up to the ceiling, and then they saw a
Yeah.
fly land on Mr. Abernathy's white cataract eye, and he didn't move, and then it flew away, and his tongue came out and ate it. That's terrifying. That's a terrifying image.
Yeah, didn't he have a spiky tongue?
Yeah, a spiky tongue.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're like tentacle monsters, the demons,
Yeah, they are
sort of.
tentacle Mr. Abernathy is a spider tentacle monster, and Mr. Renfield is a toad-like demon, and so is Mrs. Renfield is another toad-like demon,
Yes.
if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
the
gets
storm.
busted.
Because Mrs. Abernathy starts coming back towards the house, and Boswell just starts giving up a storm.
And so then she calls for more demons.
Yes, she calls for more demons, realizes they need to up their timetable and start the invasion on Halloween night.
Which is just typical, isn't it?
Yeah, and then the fun ensues.
The fun.
The fun. Because I really enjoyed reading about everything that was going on around town, because in so many, like, supernatural stories like this, when this happens, everyone just kind of focuses on the experience of the heroes. They don't be like they see about what happens with Maria's family with those red-eyed demons, where it's like there's those two demons that go tromping through her father's roses.
Right.
And we learn that Maria's father is more terrified of his wife than he is demons, which is appropriate. We go see Shan and Gaff, who end up getting drunk at a pub on Halloween.
Right.
With the help of Melody, who has decided to be as helpful as humanly possible. Nerd ends up back in Biddlecombe. We have the Harpies that attack the police station, which is hilarious.
Right.
We have a woman who tried to get into a cab that subsequently tried to eat her, but she escaped by spraying perfume in his mouth. We have the shooting club that was all turned to stone by a Medusa-like creature, and then we had the land sharks that started eating part of the lacrosse team. What else do we have? Oh, and we have Sergeant Rowan and Constable Peel, who apprehend Nerd, who has decided to pretty much joyride a Porsche.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, totally.
If I was a demon, that would be what I would.
Yeah.
Demon of joyriding.
Nerd has not decided what kind of demon he was, and now we've discovered Nerd is a speed demon.
But
It's funny. And so he steals a Porsche, goes for a joyride, gets pulled over by Sergeant Rowan and Constable Peel, who Sergeant Rowan has to be like the chillest dude. I swear, he's
very laid back
on something. Maybe, possibly. But he is just as calm could be. And then back at the Church of St. Timidus, I said Thomas, but it's Timidus. Church of St. Timidus of Biddlecombe, Bishop Bernard the Bad starts rising from the dead.
Yes, the bishop who shoved red-hot pokers up people's
Bottoms.
asses.
It says bottoms in the book, so...
That's just because of the alliteration.
Yes.
Also, I won't say that. It's a silly word, and I won't use it.
And I do think, going back to St. Timidus of Biddlecombe, the story behind St. Timidus is that he went and hid in a cave to prevent himself from sinning. And so then people would bring him food and supplies, and then we found out he could still hear people. He dug himself deeper into the cave. One of the walls collapsed, and he ended up
crushed him.
And so people decided he should be a saint. However, he didn't actually do anything good to deserve sainthood.
He just didn't do anything bad.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting distinction.
Yeah. It's like, if you really want to have sainthood, maybe you should, like, do some good for your fellow man or something like that instead of hiding in a cave. He's like, however, this means that you and I, neither of us will be a saint, but neither of us also will probably be crushed by our social anxiety.
Right. Yes. Now, we forgot to mention, like, before all of the demons start wandering around town, Samuel sends an email off to the CERN guys, the scientists.
Because they came on the news and said there was a bit that just was gone.
And so then he was like,
hey, this is what I
know
saw.
something about this,
Yeah.
and this is what I saw. And against all odds, they pay attention to that.
Because it came with a picture.
It came with a picture. And Pixar didn't happen. So the Dr. Plunk. Dr. Plunk comes to town to meet with Samuel and to find out what's going on at 666 Crowley Lane. And he ends up chased by a flying skull away from the house.
That chomps.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would assume a skull would chomp.
What kind of skull? It's a flying skull. I've never seen one of those before.
Use your imagination.
I'd be pretty content to never see one of those.
I think that would be dope.
I think that would be awful. Can you imagine humans walking around with flying skulls? We'd have wings coming out of our head.
That would be dope. want for Christmas is wings to sprout out the side of my head.
Okay, if people cannot handle the amount of melanoma in our skin, how are they going to deal with different kinds of feathers?
It'd probably be fine. Also, I'm not thinking feathered wings. I'm thinking like leathery wings.
Oh, you're thinking like leathery bat wings?
Like dragon or bat wings. Yeah.
But what if your head wants to fly away, but your neck's attached?
Well, you just have to wear a neck brace.
That's not how a neck brace works.
Yeah, sure. Just like
well, like, what if your head like pulls so much it pulls like your vertebra apart, and then like your body is dead and your head's just flying around and you're like, oh shit.
Go to a chiropractor. It'll be fine.
I love these conversations we have, Casey.
Listen, I get a little off track sometimes, and this is the thing: is I just want wings on my head.
It actually would probably be pretty cool. But yeah, he's chased by a flying skull. All this chaos is happening around Biddlecombe.
There's just like several chapters of just like
the craziness that
chaos
is happening around Biddlecombe.
Yeah.
And then Samuel Johnson and his family and his friends at their house are attacked by large fly-like demons and skulls. Which, that is the moment Samuel's mother finally believes him.
She kind of started believing him before that. She knew that Mrs. Abernathy was an unpleasant person. And
then when Dr. Plonk came, it just gave a little bit more rise to her suspicions. And then when the flying skull demon showed up, she was like, oh no.
Yeah, then she was like, okay, so maybe there is something to this.
Yes, and so they fend off multiple attacks, Maria, Tom, and Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Dr. Plonk returns to the Johnsons' house. And then Nerd is able to, he does what is called a runner from the police while they are busy mowing down the walking dead at the graveyard at the church of St. Timotheus.
Have you seen Shaun of the Dead?
Yes, oh my god.
That's the vibe I get from this whole...
I'm okay, yeah. This is very Shaun of the Dead or the End of the World pub or...
Yeah. It's just like the police part of it specifically makes me think of Shaun of the Dead and then just like trying to get to the pub. Like,
I think that might be because the common denominator and all that is that it's British. And so that must be what people think of British small town police.
I guess. That's a little alarming. But. So anyway, the mass chaos happens.
Yes. And Nerd does a runner and ends up in Samuel Johnson's garden. And they beckon him to come in. And he comes in, has tea for the first time, has a biscuit with it, loses half
which
of
is
the
a cookie.
Yeah.
For you Americans out there.
Which is us.
For we Americans out there.
And then he loses half of the cookie in the tea, and then about loses his cool.
A true tragedy.
I'm like, you know what? There are days that is enough, and like that is just the last thing. But you're like, ah.
Yes. So.
No, I've had days where it's like I have been cooking and I have been so stressed out and upset, but I'm like, it's fine, I'm totally fine, it's fine. And then I drop the spoon on the floor and I just sit on the floor and cry.
Yeah.
So
we've all been there.
I feel you, Nerd. But Maria, which gay feminism, is actually the one that comes up with the plan to solve this. The 11-year-old girl with bows in her hair.
The shy one.
The shy, yes. She believes this portal is acting somewhat like a portal and somewhat like a wormhole, and if they can reverse the polarity, it will close the portal and prevent hell from coming through to Earth.
Right.
And so they decide, but whatever closes this hole to reverse the polarity has to be going exceptionally fast. And so they decide that Nerd shall steal...
Speed demon
he is, will drive the Aston Martin through the portal to hell.
It's very, Back to the Future of him.
It's very Back to the Future. You have to reach 88 miles an hour.
88 miles an hour is not very fast in
It
terms
really
of a
isn't.
portal splitting.
I've gone 88. I've gone faster than that.
I have no comment on the matter.
Mm.
No one needs to know how fast I've gone driving. Thank you very much.
So they set their plan in motion.
They do. And Mrs. Abernathy.
Sets her plan in motion.
Yes. Sorry, I got distracted rereading it.
That's okay.
Yeah, so they drive through the thing to buy Nerd they're trying to buy Nerd time.
Yeah. And so she sends the demons that are Mr. Abernathy and Mr. Renfield, because she has already killed Mrs. Renfield for trying to betray her, to deal with Samuel Johnson once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
One is a toad demon, one is a spider demon that has a pair of human legs sticking out of its bottom.
That's really the worst.
That actually is quite terrifying to me. Because I hate spiders.
Yeah.
Toads, I'm not scared of. Spiders, oh hell yes. One of them wiggles and I just scream and jump away. But this spider is killed with the help of Tom and Maria.
Mm-hmm.
And the toad is run over by Nerd.
Yes.
With a slap. And so they are putting their plan into action. The gates are almost open. And then Mrs. Abernathy is having her grand villain monologue.
And Samuel's like, I have a question.
Yes, I have a question. And it's not even, I have a question, bitch. It's just, excuse me, I have a question. And so it's like, there's no other way to respond besides, what is it? And he brings up a very valid point. It's like, if
what's the point?
What's the point of this? If you don't like being in hell and you come here and you want to make it a new hell, why are you going to make it just like the place you left, even though you don't like it? Why don't you just come here and be okay with it?
And hang out.
And hang. Be cool. Be more chill. And she goes into this whole, we hate purity, we hate beauty, we hate everything, and it's like, I think you hate it because you don't have it.
Yeah, it's definitely that kind of thing.
Kind of a thing. And Samuel starts getting through to this little pink sludge monster that's standing next to him. And then Mrs. Abernathy explodes the sludge monster.
Yes, and then she turns into her true form, which is Baal.
Yes.
Which is,
all mouth.
yes. She's a big tentacle monster with teeth.
And it is very interesting that it says that Baal has no gender, or can go between both genders, but prefers the female because they believe the female is keener and more deadly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that says something. I'm not sure what.
And she's about to
Eat Samuel.
eat Samuel.
When Boswell protects him.
Yeah.
Boswell was not supposed to be there, and he told Boswell to run home, and Boswell, ever the loyal baby he is, defends Samuel, and Mrs. Abernathy almost kills Boswell, but does not, and then Samuel, in a fit of rage, throws a brick down her throat.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm like, go for it, honey. If somebody did that to my dog, I'd throw something else at them.
It's very, David and Goliath.
It is. There's literally a stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he protects Boswell, and then someone helps her dislodge the brick in her throat.
And then Nerd drives the Aston Martin through the portal.
And you hear goodbye.
And
a little pop. And that reverses the polarity.
And everything gets sucked back in.
Yes.
And Mrs.
Except for the creature in the pond.
Mrs. Abernathy is trying to hang on with her tentacles, and
yeah.
Samuel stomps on her tentacles
and tells her to go to hell.
And she does.
And then Samuel cradles little Boswell and tells him what a good boy he is.
Which is an important thing to do anytime your dog helps you save the world.
Yes. Especially.
Because dogs are good.
Dogs are good dogs.
My dog
How much
is
of that reason have you had?
Enough. take it. I'm fine. I'm just drinking some more.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So then they live happily ever after, except people died.
Sort of.
People died. The town
People
kind of got
died.
destroyed.
And Samuel is still
And
seeing...
Samuel's dad is still a dick.
Yeah, and Samuel is still seeing the reflection of Mrs. Abernathy in mirrors. Which, fuck mirrors.
Cover all the mirrors in the house.
Mirrors are terrifying.
Never look in a mirror.
Nope. Never look in a mirror. Don't do it. Bad things happen. An aluminum lined mirror is fine, but the silver lined mirrors, you don't want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Nerd and Wormwood ride off into the sunset away from the wasteland of the Aston Martin.
That's gay.
Wait till the sequel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do they get together?
No.
Who gets
But
together?
you want to talk about hella gay?
So, it's a fun book. It's definitely a kid's book.
Yes.
Like, I enjoyed it, but I kept getting distracted because the writing style is for, like...
It's a younger crowd.
For, like, preteens, probably.
Yeah.
For, like Samuel's age, like 11 to 14.
11 to 13.
And, like, I enjoyed it.
It's a very impressive book for an 11 to 13-year-old.
I enjoyed it, but it was definitely a lower, like, reading level than I've read for a while, so I kind of had trouble focusing. But I did like it.
Yeah, the thing that led me to John Connolly, to begin with, was I took a fiction film class, or a fantasy and fiction class. I also took a fiction and film class, but that's a different story. And we read The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly, and I loved that book because it dealt with a bunch of really adult themes through the mind and eyes of a 11, 12-year-old boy who's definitely coming of age through the relationships with fairy tales.
Right.
And so that's what led me to the Gates, and I loved it because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's light, it's funny. It really, I had never seen the science and the physics complementing the fantasy ever before, and so I had really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Because normally science and fantasy are on opposite ends of the board.
Yeah, it was a fun book, and it definitely riffed off of things like Douglas Adams and off of
Good
Terry
Omens.
Pratchett and Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
So if you liked Hitchhiker's Guide or if you liked Good Omens, this is probably a book you'll enjoy. But
if you like any Terry Pratchett,
it's an easier read than all of that
Yeah,
too.
it's
So
not-
it's
it's
a
not
good
very
intro to supernatural fantasy for a younger reader. I
Yeah.
think. How many bottles would you give it?
I give it 3.5 because whenever I'm sad, I come back to this series too.
That's always a good.
I do this, Good Omens, Fairy Tales, all that stuff.
I would probably give it 3. I really liked it. It was fun.
Okay, so that's a 3.25 rating.
There you
Both
go.
of us. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was our first Halloween book of the season,
Yes.
coming out on the October 15th. And keep your eye out for our second Halloween book, and of course for our
Twitter, our Instagram,
and
our
our
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yes, our Facebook and our Patreon
Patreon's going to start having some exclusive episodes
Yes,
here shortly.
one of them includes Marvel.
I've had 3 glasses of wine. Cut me
Yep.
some fucking slack.
Yep, we're gonna get you
Anyway,
some water.
keep your eye out for our next Halloween book.
Yes.
The holidays are going to be pretty busy, so hopefully we will keep to our normal recording schedule. But if
Knock on
anything
wood.
changes, we will let you know.
Yep.
Keep an eye on our Twitter. That's the best place to go
Yep.
for any information
Twitter,
about changes to our
Instagram,
schedule. And
Facebook.
thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you next time.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. For more information, visit us at litliteraturePodcast.com or on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And remember, too much work and no vacation deserves at least a small libation. Cheers!